following is a paid commercial program paid for by McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies and does not reflect the opinions or advice of KRLD or CBS Radio.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing, or CSI Show, with Victor McClure and Guy Allard from McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies. For the next hour, Victor and Guy will use their combined 60-plus years of experience to answer your financial questions with their own brand of plain-spoken language and hard-hitting style.
Welcome back to the Common Sense Investing Show. I'm Victor McClure. My co-host, Guy Allard. How you doing, Guy?
I'm doing pretty good, Victor. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope everybody's not burning up outside. It's been, I was thinking this spring it was so moderate, you know.
It was a pretty easy spring.
We got so much rain all the way into July, right? Now we're into the hot side again. They said from now till the end of like August 22nd is the hottest part of the year. So
get ready for those electric bills.
That's right. My pool's going to be used a lot. Probably not by me because I'm old and I'd rather just stay in the air conditioner. But my kids for sure.
Or you're at the office all day.
That's right. Just think about the old days when they didn't have air conditioners.
That's right.
I was thinking about this. I watched an old, it was a picture of them doing, it was Congress or something, like a Texas legislature. And I'm thinking, think about it being 100 degrees. They're all wearing suits. They have no fans, no electricity. You know how horrible that must have been?
I got a terrible picture of my grandfather sitting around in his briefs with the windows open and a box fan reading the newspaper.
You can't unsee that, can you?
No, it was, but that's what it was.
Yeah, my house, at my grandmother's house, they had those old water coolers.
Yeah, evaporative coolers.
The water hose went into the cooler and it blew over that cold water.
Yeah,
and it'd
like
blow water out on your face and stuff, you know, but we loved it.
Oh, I thought you were talking about evaporative coolers.
No, it's just an old water cooler.
Where it's dry. They can
yeah, basically it's just your hose is going through the thing and it's
going
like
a fan
over
mister
the water.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we have misters.
Oh, yeah. So that's what we had that's my grandma's house in Greenville. You had one in the living room. That's the only one you could have in the whole house. It's kind of like the heat in your heat was one little bitty heater in the kitchen and a heck of a heavy quilt. Everybody had tons of quilts on the beds.
Do you remember radiators?
Oh, yeah. Well, they still have those in the Northeast, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Well, we had a few clients in this week that gave me one of the reasons why we're going to talk about this next topic. What they went to a very famous advisor.
Money manager.
Said I think he'd rather have his mother rot in hell than have an annuity or something like that.
That's right.
And what he told him is we've averaged 8% a year over our, illustrious 50 years in business, whatever.
So if you want to draw 5 or 6, you should be fine.
That's right. They had a plan to draw 5% a year. And obviously that makes sense, right? You're making 8, you draw 5, you're still growing your principal a little bit. But the truth is the math doesn't work. It's impossible.
Even if you go to their website, which is, I believe, where we went with the clients,
right,
they even state that.
Absolutely. What happened is I know this firm very well. And I basically said, well, their own material on their website, you can download it anywhere you want. It's on all their commercials, tells you that if you take out 5% of your assets a year, and they're using indexes, not their actual returns. Indexes beat 90% of most money managers.
That's right. It used to be 95.
They're using index.
That's right.
And they set a 50-50 portfolio. Because think about it. When you're 75 years old, you're not going to be 100% stocks unless you're crazy. You're going to have some stocks, some bonds, some CDs, cash, that kind of thing. So if you're a 50-50 portfolio, it has a 70% chance, which is not bad, of having $1 left in your portfolio. $1. Now, what do you think the odds of having all your principal there? So this isn't saying you're going to keep your principal. This is saying we're going to give you a 70% chance of having $1 when the advisor told them, no, I think you have a real good shot of keeping all the principal for sure.
And I tell you what, we've talked a lot about the psychology of investing. And just think about it. How many times, at least subconsciously, if you don't know you're doing it, do you ask a question looking for the answer that you want, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And when you get the answer that you want, like I can show you an 8% rate of return, so therefore you can withdraw 5 or 6, click, 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 we have a winner. You think, absolutely, that's right. So it's kind of
We've gone over the 4% rule. Has been around forever. It said if you take out 4%, you have a 90% chance of having $1 out of, I don't care how many millions, over 30 years. So how can somebody take out 5 regardless of their return? They can't. So I wanted to do a brief rundown of the numbers just to let you know how impossible it is. Let's say you have that $1 million. It doesn't matter if it's 100,000 or 100 million. You got $1 million and you're taking out 5% a year. Okay, but let's say market drops 50% like it did. Now, a critic might say, well, maybe it doesn't drop 50. It doesn't matter. The math won't work if you're taking money out of account that can go down. I'll show you. If it drops 50%, you got 500,000 left, right?
Of $1 million.
If you have to take out your 50,000,
you have
5%,
450 left, right?
Yep, you got 450. Let's say it makes 20% 3 years in a row. You know the rebound's always better than the drop,
That's
right?
90,000 the first year.
That's right. So you got 90,000, but you need 50. Another year has passed. You need to live on your bills. So you've actually got 490 from 450. You've grown some, right?
40,000, you went up.
Then you make 20% again the next year. Take the 20% minus the 50 that you had to take out to live on that year. You're at 538. Do it one more time. 20%. Again, that's 3 up years of 20% in a row. It's an actual, I added 107,000, but you got to live on 50 again. Another year has passed. You've got 595,000. So my point with all that, I hate talking numbers too much on the radio. I know it's hard.
Nice to have a visual, and you can't on the radio.
You started with $1 million. You had 1 down year, 3 20% up years, and you still only have less than 600,000.
And I'll go over
That's
some numbers
one
that we've talked about 4 or 5 times, but we probably should go over them 10 more times over the next few months so that it really becomes second nature. And you know, the market has averaged a little over 4% for the last 17 years. If you find a place, which there isn't any, where you pay absolutely no fees and you get dividends. So now 8%'s double what the market's done. With fees, you're making 10 or 11. But forget that for the moment. We've talked about putting $1 million in and taking a 6% withdrawal, $60,000 on your $1 million. Market returns, no fees, and in 17 years, you're negative, what, $50,000?
If you take it to this example, where you only took out 5%, all right, you have no money left. You have like 20 grand left. And that's 17 years of retirement, not 30.
That's right.
So my point with all that is, mathematics, you cannot take money. The stock market was never designed to pay your bills. People are telling you that because you can remain liquid, and it's easy to sell. If I told you you're making 8, of course you can take out 4 or 5 and grow your money, I'm pretty sure.
And those are benefits, right?
That's right.
Liquid, and you can access the cash.
But it was never designed because if you ever take a down year, no matter what the depth of the down year, it's almost impossible to recover. What we've told you before is it's a death spiral. Anytime you're taking out more than a couple % a year, maybe 3, out of a portfolio, if it goes down or doesn't make money in any given year, you're going to go into the death spiral. There's no way around it. Now, when does it work the other way? Well, that person, the advisor that gave him that recommendation, if it made exactly 8% every year, never had a down year, and you were taking out 5, it works.
In other
words, that's not the way the market works.
If you have promise to pay items, which I think we're going to talk about in depth later in the show, like a CD, if you make $5,000, you make 50 or 5%, you make $50,000 a year on $1 million. Obviously, you can take that 50 out, and guess what? Next year you'll make another 50. But you can't do it when your underlying asset fluctuates.
No, it's a pure math problem. It's easy to, like I said, there's no way. Even their own material says it's virtually impossible. They're telling you there's a 70% chance of having $1 left, not your principal.
But no offense intended, maybe a little. When they get you under the ether and they're trying to close you for your life savings and you need 6%, oh, sure, we can average 8.
You need anything to pay the bills cannot have a fluctuating principal. It's just the way it is. And so those are the mathematics of it. Think about it. It went down one time, which it's done this twice in the last 17 years. It does it one more time. You get 3 20% up years in a row, and you're still down 40% of your principal. You've only been retired for 5 years. that is the death spiral. You cannot. There's no way that remaining $600,000 is going to last for 30 years of your retirement.
And the one thing
It's
you
impossible.
know is it will go down
Right.
again. We just don't know how much or when.
There are plenty of things you can do that guarantees an outcome, okay? And you don't have to worry about running out of money. Are they perfect? Of course they're not perfect.
Nothing's perfect.
But they're better than running out of money and having to readjust your expenses to now you can't, hardly live.
It's kind of like trying to pass this bill in the Senate. You can't get it perfect, but we want to get the very best available to you.
And what we could do is I could show you the odds of taking money. I have people all the time tell me, no, Victor, you don't understand. I've always made 10% a year. I'm going to take out 7. The odds are about 15% probability that you'll have $1. All right? Having all your principal back, which is what they're expecting, you're talking about single digits. So it's over 90% chance of failure when you just look at the numbers. And that's all we do here at McClure Capital is look at the numbers. Don't hesitate to call us if you have any questions, 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424 or go to ilovemyretirement.com. We got a break coming up, folks. Stay with us. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing Show, where your investment strategy is always based on facts instead of some sales pitch. Here's Victor McClure and Guy Allard.
Welcome back to the show. Right before the break, we were just talking about the mathematics. When you're in the distribution phase of your life, in retirement, preparing for retirement, it is completely different than the accumulation phase. But since people are comfortable in that, they've been doing that for 30 years, they will stay at it and try to make the exact same investments work in the distribution phase. You cannot be all stock market in the distribution phase if you need to live off part of those assets. If you don't need to live on it, there's nothing wrong with the stock market. Have as much as you want in there. But if you need to take out 5%, 6% a year, I don't care what the average return has been over the years. I could care less. I can prove to you, you will go broke 80% of the time.
And something we haven't even talked about, we mentioned it briefly, but all of your assets aren't going to be or shouldn't be in the stock market when you're in the distribution phase. So if you've got a 50-50, which may be too much, and you've got 50 in the market, well, we know it's made 4% over the last 17 years. You have 50% and a 2% CD. I know that's painful. So what's the average return?
3.
It's 3.
And you're taking out 5.
And it's a fluctuating
Right.
4% on half of
Right.
your money. So your 3 isn't even the real number.
Right. No, I took it to an advisor where we usually do anywhere from 4 to 10 hours of work for every single client, doing the math that in great detail to show them with inflation what happens to your expenses, with cost of living adjustments on your Social Security, what happens to your expenses. All of these different things to show you what your life looks like at 70, 80, 90.
And those 10 hours, that's for the rough drafts.
Right.
We have several rough drafts. Then we sit down with you and really roll up our sleeves and fine tune it specific to your
But
needs.
I had a customer call a big brokerage firm. They said where the account currently was.
Yep.
And they said, no, the guy said on the phone that he thought I was fine and that he didn't believe those numbers. No, wait a minute.
What's the
I've
easiest
done-
thing to do, though?
Yeah.
Stay where you are.
That's right. I did 10 hours of work to the detailed. This person called, by the way, he had never talked to him. It's a customer service person. They pulled him up at a computer. So they knew the client from all of 30 seconds.
Yep.
And they told him a recommendation of what to do or not to do without knowing anything about their expenses. Because they go, no, our programs average at that time 7, 8%. As long as you average out, you're fine. But think about that in a broader perspective. As long as you make 8% a year for the next 40 years in a row, you're fine. I'd like to think about that.
Yep.
That's not a plan. That is a hope. I hope the market always makes 8% a year, ignoring the fact that for 17 years it's made 4. So all we have to do is, and what they'll do is they'll show you a 10-year deal or whatever, excluding a down year or whatever, and give them the whole thing. I want to know your track record from 2000 till now. I'd like to see that track record to see how I could take out that much money. It's impossible.
You got to ask yourself, we've talked about this a lot. Do you want a guaranteed or a non-guaranteed retirement? What if you could take 30, 35%, maybe 40% of your assets, guarantee your retirement, but also not lose control of your money? You're not giving your money away. It's still there. You've got a corpus if you die prematurely, but 35 or 40% will, one, not only guarantee that you'll have your bills paid forever, but the other 60% is now going to grow better because it's not doing a debt service. It's not paying your monthly bills.
Think about our philosophy. It has been for all these years, 30 years here at McClure Capital. Have your bills paid by a steady, guaranteed income stream. Once that's paid, the stock market is a great place to help you fight future inflation, and the liquidity. It's part of the liquidity needs.
And tell me,
all of that thing. But your bills are paid no matter what.
That's right. Tell me, Victor, who is adamantly opposed to these folks out there having the guaranteed version with 30 or 40% of their assets? Who tells them all the time, don't do it, it's terrible?
People selling just the alternative.
They want to manage your money and get the annual fees.
You think about what 1% a year on a growing asset is over time.
And try getting 1%.
Yeah, it's huge. And so that's what they're saying. No, just do it. Plus it's liquid. You could get out at any time.
And that's true.
That's absolutely true. But it cannot pay the bills. It has never been able to pay the bills. It wasn't designed for that anyway.
That's right.
Anybody that's being honest with you, they're really a financial advisor. Remember, we're a legal fiduciary. We have to put your interests ahead of ours. Anybody that's being honest with you will not even mention the fact you're paying bills with stock market proceeds.
And this is a loose statement, but let's say from age 20 to 50, the stock market's a great place for your 401 to grow and do its thing. But at 50-ish, it's time to make some adjustments for the guaranteed retirement.
It just depends if you need it or not. Like if you can live on your Social Security or pension, you don't have to do any guarantee. You already have a guaranteed retirement.
There you go. That's true.
But let's say you have $1 million and you're getting $30,000 for Social Security, but you know it takes $100,000 to live. I'd like to tell you one thing that's going to pay you that $70,000 difference. There's nothing. You'll have to do something like an annuity. You know, I don't even like saying have to, but you need 7% of your
It's the best
value.
option today.
Yeah, and that's why they're popular. It's not from commissions or advisors telling you. It's because you can't get that kind of income. The best CD you're going to get right now is about 2%. So that million to give you 20, but you already told me you need 70,000 income. So I don't make it. I'm trying not to. This show is a little less lighthearted, but a client came in just this week and said they've averaged 8%, so I'm going to take out 5 and I'm going to keep the principal together.
That's right, and grow it.
Yeah, and they confirmed, the advisor, that was a good idea. When you see the math, when you actually look at the math, it's impossible. And I would love to debate any person on the planet. Show me how your program can do that. I'll show you the math otherwise. Call us. We'll be more than happy to give you a free, no obligation portfolio review, do a Social Security optimizer for you.
Yep.
972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. Or go to ilovemyretirement.com. Stay with us, folks. We got a break coming up. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome back to the Common Sense Investing Show, hosted by two of the most experienced advisors in the DFW Metroplex, Victor McClure and Guy Allard.
Welcome back to the show. Remember, if you guys have any financial questions, you'd like to take advantage of any of our services like our portfolio review, we can do a retirement stress test, we can do a full-blown retirement. There's never any cost or obligation. Our number is 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. All right. Guy, let's talk about fixed income.
Promise to pay.
That's right. Fixed income is going to be your CDs, your bonds, in different kind of bonds, municipal bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds.
General obligation, revenue bonds.
That's right. There's a lot of different subsets of municipal bonds. A revenue municipal bond would be of a specific project. A GO, which is general obligation municipal bond, that would be of the full taxing authority of that municipality.
And
much safer.
Safer than the revenue bond.
Because if it was a bridge or a stadium, if it didn't produce revenue, you won't get paid back on that particular municipal bond. Okay. And very important for you municipalities to pay for projects by issuing municipal bonds. What you get is tax-free.
Hopefully you don't have any Illinois bonds.
That's right. The liberal states aren't too good with the municipal bonds.
Yeah,
They've had little issues before. All right. Well, we're talking about fixed income. All fixed income is a promise to pay. When you have a U.S. government bond, They're basically, you're loaning the U.S. government money. For this money, we agree to pay you this interest rate and your principal back at a certain time. If you buy a 10-year bond, they're going to pay your principal at 10 years, up to 30 years. They got rid of the long bond for years, but they came back 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Got back to the 30-year bonds they got. And municipal bonds you can buy up to 40 years long. Really long ones. If you really want to go out there.
Oh, yeah. Interest rate risk comes to mind.
Yeah. So what we're doing is comparing the different kinds of fixed income. These are all the promises to pay. These don't have any kind of stock market risk or anything like that. Okay, these are just fixed income. They're promises to pay. What happens is, no matter what your age are, unless you're 25, most people should have some fixed income in their portfolio. If you're 80 years old and have 100% stocks, you got to be pretty hardcore gambler. Or I'm not even gamblers. I have people that they are convinced they're probably the best trader in the world to have some kind of magic option trading system or program that's always going to produce everything.
And as you'll see as we'll go through these, there really isn't one item that's perfect. Everyone looks for the perfect holy grail magic bean, and everything has pluses and minuses. You just need to figure out, and we'll go through them with you, what is perfect for your situation or best for your situation.
Let's look at like a CD.
Yep.
CD average right now, these have come up. These have come up about a half a point here recently. But CDs, current CD 5-year rates are about 1.36. 10-year rates, you can get 10-year CDs, about 2.06. They're not tax deferred or tax free, right?
That's right.
You got to pay tax every year. So let's say you're in the 25% tax bracket and you got a 10-year paying 2, you're really getting 1.5. Okay. There are no upfront commissions or loads on a CD.
It's a positive.
That's right. That's a positive. There are penalties if you cash it out. Remember, there's a difference between a penalty and liquidity. A CD is always liquid, but you have a penalty for the time you signed up for. In other words, if you bought a 5-year CD, an emergency came up, and you needed that money 2 weeks later from the bank, you can get it. You're just going to pay the penalty.
Yep.
Okay? Then you've got, does it have interest rate risk? It does not. In other words, if interest goes up, if interest rates go
down.
up,
That's right.
What happens is, just to explain interest rate risk with you a little bit, if I've got a 3% bond and new bonds are paying 5%, who wants my 3% bond? I can't sell it on the secondary market, right?
Unless
if I have to get rid of it.
Discount the price.
Unless I discount the
That's
price,
right.
so their yield would make at least the 5.
That's right.
And so that's what interest rate risk is. People don't really. So we've been in a downward spiral to interest rates for 30-something years. So they haven't experienced this until really recently.
They've actually experienced the opposite. If they had to liquidate their bonds, they would get a premium.
That's right.
They would get paid more because the new ones are lower.
Because they had a 5% bond and now the new ones are 3.
That's right.
You can get more for your bond. So there's interest rate risk on that. Are they judgment proof? No. CDs can go and somebody can sue you and touch them. Do they avoid probate? No. Sometimes you could do a pod account, a payable on death,
Right.
and sometimes that will probate. They don't have any lifetime income options. It's just an interest-bearing instrument. Now, what are the reserves? Banks reserve anywhere from 7 to 12% or whatever. Probably say average 10.
Sure.
So they don't have the money outside of that. So if you put $10 million in a CD and the bank went under, what do you call that? Your SOL, right?
Well, short of the FDIC, certainly.
Yeah, it's not good. Okay, you got the FDIC and then the rest. You're out of luck. Don't do more than $250 in a CD. We'll talk about this more when we return from the break, but don't hesitate to call us if you have any financial questions. We're here to answer. It's 972-715-2424. Remember, we will answer them on Monday. I won't call you back because remember the person was angry.
Absolutely.
Again, 972-715-2424. Stay with us, folks. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing Show, the home of plain-spoken, no-nonsense answers to your financial questions.
Welcome back to the show. Today we're talking about fixed income. What are the different types of fixed income? Because you can't have all your money in stocks for the rest of your life. You can, but it's not the most prudent way to go about it. You need some in fixed income, and that's CDs, bonds, fixed annuities. So we're discussing the pros and cons of each kind. We talked about CDs. CDs are good because your principal can't fluctuate. It's just an interest rate. What's bad about them? They're not paying much interest, right? And the bank doesn't reserve much, so anything over 250 is kind of subject, right? Let's talk about bonds a little bit. Remember, all fixed income is just a promise to pay. So who's promising to pay a CD? The bank, right? The FDIC is backing them up to 250. With bonds, who's promising to pay? Well, municipal bond, the municipality. Corporate bond, the corporation.
That's right.
And then a government bond, the U.S. government, right? If you got a U.S. bond, right now 10-year or 5-year bonds are paying about 1.75. You get about 2.3, 2.38 or so on a government bond, 10-year treasury or whatever. The government, that is considered legally the safest thing in the world because the U.S. government is backing them 100%. Don't think the U.S. government backs all of them because they don't.
That's right.
There's some of them that are inferred government, like Fannie Mae, but they're not actually backed by the government. Okay? So Ginnie Mae mortgages are the only ones backed by the federal government, not Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac.
That's a very good point.
So,
and I would add, before, as you're getting ready to go through the pluses and minuses, our knee-jerk reaction, and in CDs would be accurate, perhaps fixed annuities, you shop rate. You want to find the very highest rate, and that's where you go. You've got the FDIC, you've got the reserves with annuities, which we'll get into. It's not the case with bonds. The municipalities that have the highest rate, the corporations that have the highest,
that's right.
You can't shop rates on bonds. You want to temper that with their rating and their financial
remember, you're loaning
wherewithal.
someone money.
That's right.
So let's say the average AAA bond is paying 3%.
Right.
Then you see somebody paying 5%.
Illinois, let's say, paying 8%.
First off, it's not going to be AAA, right?
Right.
But it's basically like loaning your uncle with bad credit money. Because anybody from a corporation, if I'm a corporation, I'm trying to expand. Why am I paying 7% on a bond when I can buy it from the bank for 2%?
Exactly.
Because I've got bad credit.
Bank
I don't
won't
have
give
the
it to me.
financials. I don't have reserves. There's all kinds of reasons why that's why I don't like high yield bonds, which used to be called junk bonds.
Exactly.
That is the people with the worst credit in the world. Now, it's worked out the last several years because interest rates kept falling. Even a company with bad credit can reissue some new stuff and lower their debt service.
And retire the higher rate.
That's right. Retire the higher rate stuff. You can't do that in a rising interest rate environment like we're in now. And so defaults go up exponentially when interest rates go up. Okay, and but we haven't seen it in 30 years, to be honest with you. There's a brief period in the early 2000s, the interest rates went back up. But other than that, it's been a downward spiral for interest rates for 30-something years. But government bonds, you still pay taxes every year on the interest, right? They're not tax-free or tax-deferred. Upfront fees and commissions, you can buy them directly from the government without them. But when you go through a broker, you always have to pay something. It just comes out of your yield.
Comes out of your yield.
Most of them don't. They say, no, there's no fees on that. Oh, there has to be. It just comes out of your yield. Let's say you got 2.3. Well, you could have got 2.5.
Yeah, it's minimal, but there are some fees.
Absolutely. There are no penalties on a government bond selling it early, but there is interest rate risk. You can lose 20% or more just if interest rates went up since you bought that bond. Okay? They are not judgment proof. They don't avoid probate. They don't have income options. What are the reserves? What kind of reserves do the government have, Guy?
Close your eyes. What do you see? Nothing. That's right.
So the government is backing this with no reserves. Okay? None.
Well, they can print money.
But they can print money.
That's right.
So I'm okay with the government bond.
Absolutely.
It just got to know what it does. Now, a corporate bond is different. How much do they put? It's the same thing. You got to pay tax every year on the interest. They're not tax deferred. They're not judgment proof. They're not anything. You got to pay upfront fees into the yield.
Rates are a little higher, aren't they?
They're a little bit higher.
On corporate.
Why? Because they have to be, right?
Even an A-plus investment grade bond.
They have to be. So how much reserves does a corporation have to put in for you to loan them money? In other words, to back this loan you're getting out there. Zero. That's right. That's why anybody that bought, you know how many people 10, 15 years ago were buying GM bonds? Because they were paying like 7%, right?
Yes,
8%.
yeah.
People buying the crap out of them. What happened to those people? They lost every penny. The stockholders like, what? General Motors didn't go out of business.
Didn't the government bail them out?
They took $25 billion from the government.
Didn't the taxpayers bail
And
them
what
out?
they did was all of the old bonds, they're all now worthless. All of the old stock is now worthless. We're going to issue these new
That's
shares.
right. We're going to issue new ones. That's right.
And we're going to screw everybody else on all the stock and all the bonds.
That's right.
And we're going to issue new bonds.
Yeah.
And we're going to pay 6% again on them. Who buys that crap?
Can you do that personally?
I could tell there's tens of thousands of times corporate bonds have gone bad.
Yeah.
And so many people just shopping yield are buying high yield crap. And so you got to be really careful on the corporate bond side. Very careful. And stay away from a lot of corporate bonds.
Yeah, and if you
Okay.
stick around after we get back from the break, we're going to talk about some things that are tax deferred and are judgment proof
Right.
and have 100% in reserves and some real good solutions that could work for
Right.
you.
You know, the best tax-free deal in the world is a municipal bond.
Yep.
They're federally tax-free. Here in Texas, we don't have state tax. If we had state tax, you'd still pay state tax on a municipal bond.
Correct.
But since we're in Texas, we got no tax. So if you're ever buying municipals out of state, you'll see them. Some of them say double tax-free. That's because the state they're from doesn't have taxes too.
You got to worry about AMT a little with those too.
That's right. Some bonds will make you subject to the alternative minimum tax. So you specifically took a lower yield to get this tax-free bond, and you end up paying taxes
And then
anyway.
they hit you anyway.
We'll talk about that more after the break. Stay with us, folks. Don't hesitate to call us at 972-715-2424 or go to ilovemyretirement.com. Stay with us, folks. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome back to the Common Sense Investing Show, hosted by two of the most experienced advisors in the DFW Metroplex, Victor McClure and Guy Allard.
Welcome back to the show. We're just talking about fixed income stuff today. You know, CDs, muni bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds, fixed annuities, that kind of thing. We already talked about CDs, government bonds, and corporate bonds. Remember, they're just a promise to pay. When people were buying those General Motors bonds that had been around for 100 years, they had no idea General Motors was just going to screw them out of the money and stay in business. You don't have to go out of business and not pay your bonds. And that's why I always tell people with dividend-paying stocks or preferred shares, they can just stop paying you, and it doesn't hurt their bottom line. Now, it's going to be harder for them to sell more bonds or more preferred stock, but at that point, they don't care. They're just dropping a big thing. So anybody ever tells me no, preferred stock's the greatest way to go or dividend-paying stocks, when they can stop it at will, you can't pay the bills unless it's a steady, guaranteed income stream. All right. But government bonds, corporate bonds, so a municipal bond, what is that backed by? Do they have to put 100% reserved? No, they don't have any reserves. It's just a promise of that municipality to pay. Now, when things are going great like they are now, what I mean by great is tax revenues are up because values are up on everything, right? They don't even have to raise the tax rates. They had to do that for a lot of years. They don't do that now because the revenue is up so much. What happens when they got all this debt service? Because you know every government agency on the planet, local or federal, spends up to where they're at.
I was
right?
going to say, they find a place to spend
That's
it.
right. And all of a sudden, economy goes down a little bit, tax revenue goes down. What's going to happen?
It's like if you overbuy a house or a car,
That's
you
right.
still have the bills, but the income's not there.
That's why Orange County almost defaulted on theirs.
New
Illinois
York's
is almost
been in
defaulted
and out
on
of
theirs.
issues. That's right.
Well, you can get City of Illinois bonds for 5 to 8%. Somebody goes, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. No.
I wouldn't buy a lottery ticket there. Apparently,
That's right.
they won't pay you if you win.
That's right. You win the lottery in Illinois, you're not going to be paid.
Good luck.
So, and that's when things are doing great.
Yep.
You look at real estate values in Illinois, they're skyrocketing just like the rest of the country, except they spend it on other stuff because they're more of a liberal state. I get that. But it's got to, when everything in fixed income, CDs, bonds, fixed annuities are promises to pay, you got to look at, all right, what is the underlying thing? Now, there's one exception in municipal bonds. It's called pre-refunded bonds. Those will have the money in reserves, but those don't pay nearly as much. But I love them.
And
Pre-refunded bonds are very safe.
That's right. And keep in mind as we go through these positive and negatives, we're talking 2017, and this is July. If we were talking in Carter's day and you had 17% bonds, we would have a totally different conversation.
I love bonds. I became a municipal principal.
That's right.
When you could get 6 or 7% tax-free out of municipal bonds, I loved them. It's just a factor of where we're at now, where we've been at for a while.
That's right.
Okay? And so here's the things you've got. All of these things are promises to pay. And the highest reserve requirement of all of them, between CDs and all types of bonds, is about 10%. The reason why you should consider maybe a fixed annuity or an index annuity for the fixed income side is they've got 100% reserves. 100%. I've never heard of anyone losing on a fixed annuity. The biggest failure that I know of was Executive Life out of California 30-something years ago. Now, that was a big company. They had the 100% reserves.
Yep.
But what they failed to do is, well, not failed to do, they invested in Michael Milken's junk bonds. So
A little too heavily.
yeah,
Yeah,
they were buying junk bonds. Well, since then, they've made the restrictions. You can't have all any of that stuff in there.
that's right.
You can have like 1% or so. It's just a small percent. But you got to have, so they had some junk bonds, but they were still at that point only short 2%. I talked to a regulator here in Texas, and they said, the people didn't lose money. I go, well, they were short 2%. Now, this is the worst failure that I've heard of in U.S. history, right?
That's right.
They were short 2% for what they owed people, and this company went under. Well, the other insurance companies in Texas kicked in the difference. They said, we can't have a failure in fixed
Keep the
annuities. These are
reputation,
people's
that's right.
pensions. My point to that is they're extremely safe.
And if you look at that, we learned from history what happened. They were short 2%. They shored up the rules to prevent that from happening. And how do you relate that to bonds? We had that crazy inflationary period where you got 6-7% on tax-free bonds. So what's the government done now to fight inflation? We've got the Fed controlling interest rates, whether you feel it's because of our debt in the trillions, almost 20, so because they couldn't pay it if the rates went up, or if they're trying to control the market in our economy. Either way, that's changed now too. I don't think we'll
You're never
see
going to have high
19%
No, it's impossible.
CDs and
It'd
such.
be like the government committing suicide.
Pretty much.
Because you got 20 trillion in debt, you better pay it.
Although I don't put it past them. I digress.
You can't do it. But with a fixed annuity, obviously, the selling point, they're much safer, but they're also judgment proof. Nobody can sue you and touch this money ever. Texas is one of the greatest states in the union because we have 100% judgment proof no matter how much. You could have $100 million in a fixed annuity paying you 3.5%, and nobody could ever sue you
If
and
you're
touch
a
it.
business owner or a doctor, you should look
Absolutely.
at
Avoids probate. You can also get life income if you wanted to. Remember, there's 100% reserves. It's tax deferred, so you don't have to pay taxes every year on that growth. So that same 2% CD that's really 1.5, a 2%, which really be, it's not tax free, so it might be 1.75. It's still more and more of what you've got. So with an index annuity, it's the same chassis as a fixed annuity. Okay, they're still fixed, so they still have the 100% reserves. What I look at in fixed income is, what are the odds I'm going to get paid back? How safe is safe? Remember, a guarantee is only as good as who's guaranteeing it. If it's the city of Chicago guaranteeing me a bond, I'm out.
That's right.
Even though Chicago is a pretty big city, right? Third biggest in the country.
It is.
I don't care about that. So on the safety side, a reserve requirement, much better, and the judgment proof avoids probate, and you can get a better rate than the other fixed income alternatives.
And a fair amount of liquidity.
That's right. Don't hesitate to call us at 972-715-2424. I'll send you the comparison spreadsheet if you like. Again, 972-715-2424, or go to ilovemyretirement.com. I'm Victor McClure for Guy Allard. We always appreciate your time.
The preceding show is paid for by McClure Capital and is for informational purposes only and not a solicitation or representation of any particular investment product or service. Any views and opinions do not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult with your appropriate professionals before making any investment or savings decisions. Always consider your risk tolerance, time horizon, and objectives in making any financial decisions. There is never any guarantee of future success or performance.
The preceding was a paid commercial program paid for by McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies and does not reflect the opinions or advice of KRLD or CBS Radio.